makes you so sure that this time round you have the ideas that will get Kenyans out of the comfort of their homes to actually vote for you come 2027? And even as you tell the opposition to focus on issues, what issues are you propagating for when it comes to the health sector, when it comes to the education sector? Why should Kenyans trust you this time round? And it's good ideas about hemp, but there seems to be a negative connotation whenever we talk about hemp or bangi or whatever. This hasn't changed. It's still an illegal substance in the country. How do we change the narrative to see the positives so perhaps we don't throw the baby with the bathwater, as they say?
First of all, you have raised three issues. One is on education. I'm going to speak on that. One is on health care. I will speak on that. And one is on hemp. I will start with the hemp one.
Okay.
And I will wish to refer you to the current market insights of the hemp production. You'll find out that the global hemp seeds market size was valued at USD 442 million in 2024. $442 million. The market projected to grow from 472 million in 2025 to 703 million by 2032, exhibiting a CAGR of 7.0 during the forecast period. Now, that is just one element that the global markets on hemp are projecting, especially to those countries that are relying on hemp, that have improved their economic development and production. Now, when we go to the hedge of understanding, obviously we are now talking to religious organizations because we wanted to let them know that hemp was not for smoking. I personally have never smoked a cigarette since I was born. I don't even eat meat. We are trying to tell the Kenyans that, look, let's look at the success stories in countries where hemp production has been a success. For example, if you look at the clothes I'm wearing today, this suit is purely hemp from a Canadian company.
Okay.
You can Google. It's about $3,000. That's money. If you look at my shirt, you can feel it. This is purely hemp.
Yeah.
Purely hemp. If you look at my shoes and socks, that's purely hemp. Why did I have to go to this level of buying something very expensive? I wanted to actually to tell Kenyans that this is what I meant. I did not mean this. And if you look at hemp also, we have hemp which is for medicinal purposes. Cancer cure is by hemp. We had COVID, which was cured by a drug which was manufactured by Pfizer through hemp. If you go to South Africa today, most of the cancer patients in Kenya are flown to South Africa for treatment. And what is it that treats them? Medicine they're using is hemp. Yes. Now, when you leave that, because of the issue of awareness, creation of awareness, with which we are now doing with limited resources, let me refer you back to the education system. What is our goal? What is our achievement? What do we intend as Roots Party to do in terms of education? We shall revert back to the Kenyatta One administration. The Kenyatta One administration education policy was borrowed successfully by Russia. It was also borrowed by England, where the colonial masters came in, whereby the 7, 1 to 7, from 1 to from 4, from 5 and from 6, with a kind of curriculum that was contended by that particular time. You'll find out that academics who are produced during that particular time are the ones that are leading the world, including the likes of Obama's father, who was taken to the US through the Tomboya projection. Now, if you look at the current curriculum system in this country, it is a burdening curriculum system. If you look at CBC is a good project, but it's not ripe for us because of lack of resources and infrastructure. Let us find out what we can do so that we don't put our kids in the streets very early in the morning. You find little kids going to school. They stay in school up to evening. What are they learning? They're learning the history of Queen Victoria, besides other things. What do we have to do with Queen Victoria, Prince Charles, Shakespeare? What kind of language, what kind of mentoring are we trying to mentor these kids into? speak English, be like an Englishman, or go to school and learn, be inserted with an ideology of production, whereby a kid goes to school, like what happens in Japan, is taught about vehicles by being introduced to toys, is taught about building by being introduced to toy building, so that he grows up with a mind of independent entrepreneurship. We shall also look into the technicalities, the technical aspect of education is key to development rather than building up. Like now we have got over 2 million Kenyans who have finished Form 4. What are they doing? What kind of education system have they passed through? Education should not be fundamental, should be a privilege. If you look at the United States Constitution, the First Amendment gives it as a privilege. A parent can sit home and teach his kids and nurture his kids into his customs, like what do the Muslim societies do, or communities from there, so that a kid should know about Islam, about respecting family, before he goes into tertiary kind of education. So we are looking at the old system of education, plus the modernized technical part of education, and we can look at the success stories like Japan and Korea and Singapore. Now, when it comes to healthcare, and that's where I am, because I'm also a researcher in that area, you'll find out that I will also revert back to the Kenyatta 1 administration. The healthcare system, healthcare theories, healthcare practicalities in those days were as follows. It was one doctor per sublocation, and one veterinary doctor per sublocation. You'll find out that we also have maternity matrons who are visiting pregnant mothers and advising them in rural areas. Ruralization of medical and healthcare plus affordable healthcare was something that Kenyans did not need to go and borrow from outside. Look at the SHA issue. In 1995, I was a part of the group of lawyers in UK who were commissioned to look into the UK healthcare policy. We flew to Cuba to find out why Cuba was a success story. Because in Cuba, it was every 6 Cubans had one doctor, and even had doctors on standby in tourist areas, so that if somebody was arrested by an issue, doctors were there to treat and to prevent what have you. So we found out that in 1967, Fidel Castro sent a group of physicians to Kenyatta, to Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, to study about our healthcare. And that's the blueprint that he copied and put in press. And Britain, NHS, National Health Fund, NHI Fund, when they sent us to Cuba, we borrowed what Cubans were doing, and that's what is working in Britain. Yet the whole thing emanated from Kenya. So as a scholar and as a person who has been involved, we shall revert back. We shall also have affordable insurance, but with the introduction of hemp production, healthcare should be free and education should be free, because a citizen of this country is a citizen of the country, is a product of the government, is owned by the government, and the government ought to take care of that person until the age of maturity.
Professor, we listen to the promise that you give, the solutions that you offer. Unfortunately, Kenyans find themselves in a position where to trust a politician is very difficult because of the history that has been there. Because earlier in the morning, we talked about the promises vis-a-vis implementation, and it's zero. So with all these promises, Kenyans are asking, but how do I trust you? How do I believe in the current position where the country finds itself that you will deliver on everything else that you're saying? What makes you different from everyone?
Yeah, because Wajackoya is a different person, and I've been designed and prescribed by a lot of people in different way. They have called me a mad person. Yes, everybody has got some degree of madness. They have called me this, they have called me that. They even said I never went to school. I had to fight to go back to Nairobi University just to fulfill the egos of other people. Let them look at me. Let them look at my history. Let them look at where I am at the moment. And the rest is them to decide. If they want to vote for me, fine. If they do not want to trust me, let them trust somebody else. It's their choice.
But that notwithstanding, then how do we deal with Kenyans today to look at a political class not as individuals who are unreachable, but to understand that the power belongs to them? Because unless Mwananchi looks at the power that I do have and I exercise that right in donating it to Mwananchi, to the politicians who are asking for our votes, then they would understand how critical they are in the entire equation. How do we communicate to Mwananchi today to understand the constitution, what it means, the power they do have, and the role of the political class in serving them?
Actually, the best way of answering that question is to go to the Genesis. Kenya has now become very easy. You have Genesis who are informed. Let them decide and let them actually enroll for votes. Let them run, and let them join the political system, and through them, this country will change. I personally cannot change on my own. Let Kenyans decide. You know, when it comes to issues of lies, yes, politicians lie, promise things they are not supposed even to promise, do things to gravitate towards the presidency so that they can be seen to be more loyal than what have you. Let Kenyans just rub them off. In fact, the majority of Kenyans today have learned that a lot of us tell lies, and that's why they are doing what they are doing. And the demonstrations that are ongoing, I actually support them, because demonstrations are actually enshrined in the constitutions. But if the country does not want to listen, let them keep on. One day they will find themselves in a mess that they will never want to come out with. I'm not abrogating for the overthrow of the government, what have you, but let me tell you one thing. One day, the very, very people will be marched naked in the streets to account to Kenyans. And I will promote and tell Kenyans to ask these people not to wait to be promised lies. Let them follow the Constitution, where they can take the law into their hands. They are protected by the preamble of the Constitution. They can make decisions favorable to the nation. We cannot keep on being suppressed by 10% of the population just because the Constitution says so. If somebody steals, what do? You take him to the courts, the cases take forever. The very, very judges whom I don't believe in, and I have no single shinjil of believing in our judicial system. Let Kenyans take the law in their hands if that's so.
Yeah, it is a good place to end. It is a good place where we get to hear what Wajackoya has to offer Kenyans, the solutions there are to the issues that are bedeviling the country. And with that, we want to say, Asante Sana, these conversations definitely must continue. And to Mwananchi, that is out there for you to decide. Decision is in your hands, and it is upon you to chart the way forward in the decisions and in the future of the country. Professor Jojo